Very good. Well, let's get started here. So the reason I decided to do this particular presentation is that over the course of the last decade working with different authors, we see some of the same mistakes happen over and over and over again when people come to us. In our Write, Publish, Sell group, which is our free group for authors to come in and answer questions, we see a lot of the same questions, we see a lot of the same struggles, we see a lot of the same issues. So I wanted to kind of give everybody a leg up by helping you have, some information on some things that you should know about ahead of time so that you don't have these same problems. Okay. And, our goal here is today is just to talk about some of the common mistakes and resources and to help you avoid from making them. First of all, we got to be real. And the truth is that it's hard work to be a successful author. And this is actually one of the big mistakes that we'll talk about a little bit later, is this idea that the writing the book is the hard part, and once you get through that, everything's going to be a piece of cake and life is going to be super simple and easy for you after that. So it's hard work. It's hard work for people who have been doing it for years. Even the people who have multiple books out there are still working hard to make sure that everything is done properly and professionally. And we're going to go through some of those things, but there's a lot to know about writing, publishing, and selling a book. While yes, it may be quote unquote easy to self-publish a book now, it is not easy to publish a professional book. And what I mean by that is one that looks like you would expect to see in a bookstore. So it doesn't matter what your genre is, whether it's a fiction book, a children's book, nonfiction, memoir, wherever it falls in the spectrum, it should still look and feel and read like any other book that anyone could purchase somewhere out there. And a lot of first-time authors just think because they downloaded a template or because somebody told them to do it this way or because they loaded it to Amazon that they're good to go and right away. So we're going to talk about why that is not always the case, or what you need to know about so that you can have a professionally published book. So who am I? For those of you who are new to me, I'm Alexa Bigwharf. I am an author coach, a publisher, and a podcaster and host of the Women in Publishing Summit. And most of all, I really enjoy sharing my knowledge and teaching people around the mistakes that I have made in this process, because I've made a lot of them. So it's my goal always to help other people bypass a lot of the mistakes that I made. My story started with blogging, which led to writing a book and publishing a book, which led to writing and publishing another book, which led to people coming to me and asking questions about how I was doing it. And I found that I really enjoyed shepherding, if you will. I think that's the greatest term, but shepherding people through the process to help figure out this path, because it's super overwhelming. And that's one of the first common mistakes that I don't even have in the presentation. But the first big mistake is that people don't have any clue what they're really getting into a lot of the time. And the first book winds up being kind of an adventure as you're learning the path and learning all of those things. And if this book has been the book that you've spent years and years writing, you don't want it to be your adventure. You want it to go smoothly and to have it, yes, it can be a good adventure, but you don't want it to be an experiment and trying to figure out all the things to do right and to not do right and all of that kind of stuff. So it is okay to DIY. I would not have a job if it weren't for many of the people that I help in the DIY, do-it-yourself process of getting their book published. It's not okay to DIY it and to expect that if you don't get somebody to do these things for you professionally and your book does not look good, to expect that people are just going to buy it. Okay. You can get help. You can be the most indie of indie authors and still be self-published and manage the process and still be savvy enough to know that you're not a cover designer, that you're not a graphic artist, and that it's okay to reach out and find somebody to help you do that. It's okay to hire a coach. It's okay to take courses. It's okay to spend money where money needs to be spent. And a big mistake that I think is made out there is when people buy into this hardcore thing that you should not spend any money to get your book published. Well, that's okay. If that's the route you're going to take, if you're going to spend all your time and all your energy trying to do it all by yourself, I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but I'm going to tell you that why? Why, when you can find someone who can do a really amazing cover for you that's going to catch people's attention and actually make them want to click on the book or pick the book up from the bookshelf, why wouldn't you want to invest in the $200, $300 to get that done? And yes, you can get a beautiful cover for in the $200 to $500 range easily. Okay, same with editing. Why would you skip that process? Why would you want to put a book into the world that you're immediately allowing criticism because within the first few pages there's mistake after mistake or other errors and proofreading errors and all of those things? It just doesn't make sense. So can you do it all on your own? Yes, you can. Is it the best way to move forward? My professional opinion is no. Okay, with the resources that are available today, there's no excuse for not having a professional book that looks like every other professional book on the marketplace. Now, what I'm going to tell you is that I do not speak for every voice of the publishing industry. I do not have an all-knowing eye on everything that is going on. What I do have is about 8 years of experience and hundreds of authors and the road that we've journeyed, plus hundreds of interviews through my summits and podcast interviews and things like that, and webinars and all of those. So all the information that I'm providing you today is based on my experience, my team's experience, and my interviews with people on things that are challenges, are a problem, are concerns, are issues that people have. So that's where it's coming from. So if you hear me say something and you've had a different experience, I'm not gonna, that's good. That's just the disclaimer that this is from my point of view, my perspective, but does not mean that it's the only point of view or point of perspective. Okay, so let's get right into it. What's the first big mistake? Mistake number one is a lack of knowledge about the process. Hands down, this is just a big umbrella problem. There's so many pieces of the puzzle that you don't even know you don't know, or that you needed to know, or any of those things. I can't tell you how many times we see either sent to us in an email or somebody asking to have a call with me, or posted in our Facebook group, or posted somewhere else. It's like, oh my gosh, oops, how do I fix this? Oh no, I told everybody my launch day is the 15th of April, and it's the 15th of April, and I just hit publish on my book, and Amazon sent me an error message back and said there's a problem and we can't move forward. So now you've been spending all your time to get everyone to your book on April 15th, and guess what? There's a problem in your file, there's a problem going on, and they're not allowing you to move forward, or something else has held it up. We've had copyright infringements, suggested infringements. Sometimes there might be a quote or a recipe or something like that that flags the computer that people didn't even know about until they hit that publish button. We've had people say, oh my gosh, I had no idea that accepting the free ISBN would make Amazon show up as my publisher or whatever, or the list goes on and on. Oh my gosh, I didn't know I should have gotten a print preview of this book, and now I'm looking at the book that I just ordered 200 copies of, and everybody else just purchased their book, and there's massive mistakes that I didn't see in this and that. So, oh my goodness, the list is long of oopses, and I wish I'd known that. And all of those types of things. So we hear this and we take this information and we incorporate it into making sure that our clients never have those oopses, that our authors, that people who are going through our programs never have that, because we provide the timeline and the information and all the things that they need to know. So there is no, oh, I wish I'd known that before XYZ. The distribution things on Amazon and Ingram Spark and undoing mistakes that people make because they just don't know what they're doing on the back end of these programs. It's a big thing. So ISBN and your other metadata, your book formatting, the right cover that matches the genre, branding, oh my goodness, the marketing strategy, how publishing actually works, all of these things. It's a huge thing, okay? So we all know that people can do it on their own and figure it out on their own, and there's tons of resources out there. But I want you to know and understand that when you come in and you decide to indie or self-publish a book, you're taking on the responsibility of learning all that knowledge of massive industry knowledge. Can you do it without knowing every single thing? Yes, of course you can. And this is one of the reasons why we always say, what's your goal? What are you using your book for? What are you trying to achieve with your book? And what do you already have available to you? And sometimes your path is going to look different than someone else's path because of those types of things. But regardless, you absolutely need to know a few things. You absolutely should always follow industry standards when it comes to publishing your book. What should be on your cover? And by that, I'm not even talking about a beautiful design. I'm talking about what should be on your cover in terms of the key pieces of information that bookstores, librarians, retailers, and readers look for. The title on the spine, the imprint information, the categories, the pricing, all of those types of things. What should the inside look like? I'm going to tell you right now, it's so disappointing when someone, is it still okay? Sorry, I was just checking to make sure there was no problem there. So yes, I will be sending out the replay, so nobody worry. And I'm recording this on Zoom, so it'll be a clean copy that we load to YouTube. So no worries about that. Okay, so I forgot what I was saying there. We'll move forward. There's just a lot of things that, the industry standards. It's so disappointing to me when I get a book, when I pick up a book, either at an event or someplace, and I've just heard this incredible speaker and I'm so excited about their book, and I pick up their book and I look inside and there's no formatting, or the formatting is crazy, or it just doesn't look good. And from the second you look at it, you think, oh, this is not professional. Well, can I trust anything that they just said? If they didn't take the times to do the time and the energy to do their book right, what does that say? And all these things run through their heads that may or may not be legit. I mean, they may be absolutely the expert and just, they didn't take the time to figure out the process and thought, oh, okay, I can just do this because everybody else is doing it, so here we go. But you lose credibility when somebody picks up your book and it doesn't look good. Did it freeze? Okay, it's still going. All right, so just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, especially if you are trying to be an authority in your industry, if you are trying to be a professional writer, if you are trying to be a best-selling fiction author. You need to look professional, and you need to do the things to make sure that your book checks off all those check marks in people's brains when they're looking at your thing. If I pick up this book, which just happens to be on my desk right here, and I'm looking at it, I expect it to have a certain level of quality on the inside. I expect it to be laid out in a certain way. I expect there to be front matter and back matter. I expect the copyright page to include the information that it's supposed to have. And those are things that we just expect as readers and we don't even realize. So, okay. So how do you not make this mistake? Research. Do your research. Don't take information from somebody who has self-published one book. I'm just going to put that out there. I used to not to like to say things like that, But I'm telling you now, someone who has only published one book through Amazon is not an expert. Even if they have accomplished this, they are not a publishing expert. They can tell you how to load a book to Amazon, and maybe they can tell you about some of the other things on there, but who knows where their expertise is. So instead, go to blogs, podcasts, industry organizations like the Independent Book Publishers Association, the Alliance of Independent Authors, the Authors Guild. There are lots of professional organizations out there that provide lots and lots of information on these types of things. Hire a coach, take a course, do all of the things to join communities like this, attend webinars, get training, watch tutorials over on YouTube. When it comes to tutorials of some of the techie things like loading your book to Amazon or to Ingram Spark or anything like that, like we've done some tutorials to help you figure out what different things mean and the order, the process, all of that stuff, how you get through there. So we're just Write, Publish, Sell on YouTube. Go over there and subscribe, please. And again, just be careful where the information comes from. There's a lot of people who like to tell you what to do and what not to do. And it's okay to take that information, but look at several different sources, because I think you'll find that if you go to the Jane Friedmans of the world, if you go to the Independent Book Publishers Association, if you go to the organizations and the people that are doing this very professionally, you will find Kindlepreneur, Dave Chesson's site is fantastic with information. You will find these sites, our blog. We put lots of stuff on the Write, Publish, Sell blog. And through the Women in Publishing Summit, we provide as much information as we can to help give you the big picture understanding. Okay. Mistake number 2. This is not having any plan or guidelines on how to do it. So we talked about the fact that people often don't know all the different pieces of the puzzle, but then they don't know, if they do know pieces of the puzzle, they don't understand how those pieces of the puzzle go together, how they play in together, and how they, at what order in the process things happen. So if you don't have a full understanding of the timeline, the process, how do you even know, like, what kind of editor do you need, and when do you need to contact an editor? At what part in the process do you even know who you're going to get as an editor? Do you know when your book is ready for layout? Your book needs to be done, like final, before you send it to a layout designer. Now that doesn't mean that changes can't be made afterwards, because you still proof that, you still get a print proof, and you may find some edits, but it is highly, highly frustrating if you, it's highly frustrating if you are, sending a book to a designer and say, yes, it's done, and then you come back and have pages and pages of changes to be made, because it's very time consuming to make changes to a book that's already been laid out, et cetera, et cetera. When should you start marketing? What tools should you be using? Are you considering your budget? You should be spending money on marketing your book. That's just my belief. I know there are lots of people out there who say you can do it all for free, and you can if you start really far in advance and do a really large, in-depth thing, or if you already have a business where you have an audience built. There are exceptions to those things, but for the most part, you need to have some level of marketing budget and some things that you are doing that's going to help you, whether it's running some Facebook ads, whether it's marketing through Google ads, whether it's using Amazon ads, whether it's hiring somebody to do some of those things for you. You need to have that stuff in there. So what are the solutions to this one? Well, research again, put on your author entrepreneur hat, and learn the industry, learn what you're trying to do, learn how to market your book, learn how to get publicity, create a plan. Oh my goodness, it all starts with the plan, with your timeline, your budget, your goals, your objectives. Again, you might consider hiring a coach, hiring somebody who project manages you. We project manage the whole thing. We have a 150 plus step process from start all the way through launch, that we lead through in a very systematic, designed way that we know is in the right order, in the right steps, and in the right process to make sure that these steps don't get missed. You can take a course, you can listen to podcasts, same things again here, getting educated, join communities, ask questions. We have a basic timeline on our website. It's writepublishsell.co /the book publishing timeline. That's in the slides. Or you can go to writepublishsell.co and go to the blog and look up the book publishing timeline. And it gives a little bit more information. You can opt into a timeline that we put together. And it'll tell you the general things from about, it's 120 or 180 days out, which you should be considering. But you know what? We created that a couple years ago, and I've learned and added a whole bunch of things to my process since then. So that reminds me, I need to go back and update that. But it's enough to at least give you enough of a picture that you realize, okay, this is when I should be editing. This is how long layout's going to take me. This is this part of the piece. This is this part of the piece. Okay, mistake number 3. This is a big one. So many people publish their book before it's ready to be published. So I know everyone is excited when you finish your book that you want to publish it and move on and have that book out into the world. Trust me, do I get it? And there are certain scenarios when that's okay. We could go through and talk about lots of times when that's okay. If you already have a defined audience and your book is an instructional manual that goes along with a course, or it's just something you're using to grow your audience, or there's many, many reasons why it's okay to publish a book, on a faster timeline. But for most people, especially for fiction books and memoirs, and even some really detailed nonfiction books or self-help books, people finish writing it. They go through maybe one round of editing, get somebody to lay it out, and they load it up and they publish. And there's a few reasons why it's not ready then yet. One, it's probably still mostly a first draft. Even if first draft, I mean the not final version. It's probably not been marketed well enough if you didn't start the marketing in there. There's a lot of probablys here, but you really need to take the time to take a step back from your book, workshop it, work on your craft, then come back to it, spend some more time revising it. I am not a proponent of spending 7 years revising your book. I don't want anybody to think that. But I do know that almost every time I think I'm done with something, if I take a step back, if I send it to somebody to read, if I just take a day or two away from it and come back and reread, I find that it could be better. It could be improved upon. It could be done better. The verbiage could be better. So you can workshop it. You can have other beta readers come in and help you finesse it, all of these things. But don't just finish it and publish it because you're so excited that you're done and want to publish it right away. Okay. All right. Let's see what else. So work on your craft. Use critique groups, use beta readers, use collaborative writers, have other people provide feedback. I'll even do this with my emails sometimes. I'll send them to colleagues, especially if it's something that when we were sending out some of the emails about the summit and some of the topics that we were talking about, I had my beta readers, if you will, were people that could provide feedback and make sure that what I was saying made sense and was good quality and all of those things. So, it's just good that you make sure the book is ready before you put it out into the world. Make sure that you've done what you need to do based on your goals and your timeline and your plan. Make sure that you've taken the time to order a print proof. There are some really strange things that happen, such as fonts not printing the way they look in the PDF preview. For whatever reason, this has happened to us. There was a font that we loved and we were using for our books, and we found that they weren't printing D's in any of the books. So we ordered a print proof thinking we were almost done, and we had to go back to layout and redo it with a different font because the D's weren't showing up in the book. That's a problem when an entire letter is eliminated from the print of a book, but it didn't show up like that in the PDF. So And then, of course, take your time to do it right. If you're anxious to get your book on sale, then put it on pre-order so that you can send people. But I'm telling you what, your best bet when you are a brand new author is to give away as many copies of your book as you can, even if it's just a PDF download, to get people reading it that might not have bought it, but will look at a free preview. And get them talking about it and leaving reviews and all of those kinds of stuff. But you can run that. You can give it away for free and have it on pre-order at the same time. Again, same types of solutions for these. If you're working with a publishing partner, if you're working with a coach, a shepherd, or going through a course, or buying a book to help you maneuver these things, listening to podcasts, reading blog posts, all of those things. The big picture here is, the big overlying theme is to educate yourself. Okay. So it's really important that everyone have a realistic picture of what's going to come from your first book, and even second and third and fourth book. This idea of building an audience. So the email list is such a crucial thing. The email list of people who are the right email list is so crucial to so many elements of this, because that's the group that is getting to know you, that you're providing value to, that you're doing all of these things. And over time, as you're building that audience, as you're building this list, you will see an increase in sales, an increase in all of these different things that come. And it's important that people have a realistic expectation of what's going to come from the first book. If you don't have an already built audience and the right kind of audience, if you don't have people that are already just there waiting for your book, the sales, are going to be a percentage of the people in your audience. And you're going to quickly find that no matter how many good friends you have, most of them are not going to buy your book. It's sad, but it's true. Your mom can only buy so many copies, and your distant relatives probably won't ever buy one. So most of them probably won't even know that you've written a book. So when we were talked so I'm telling you this not to completely make you think, well, what am I even doing here? You can do it. You just have to have very realistic expectations, and that plan of growth that includes audience growth is so critical to it. It takes a few years to build up the right audience and the right thing. And Brooke mentioned it in our interview on the last day of the summit, that for fiction authors and for a lot of other authors out there, it's usually around book 3 where you really start to see the traction that you're looking for, the continued sales, the backlist getting more sales, and all of those types of things. That's when most people are going to start really seeing the income increase that they're seeing from their books. And with nonfiction authors, a lot of times it's going to come from these other things: coaching, speaking, courses, book sales at events, things of that nature. So, you absolutely have to be realistic about what's going to happen. And so many times people go into it thinking, oh my goodness, I've got this amazing book, and often they are amazing books, but the world doesn't know about them. So you have to make sure that you are spending that time to do this. Let's see. Okay. Mistake number 4 is what I love this term that Kiki Oliphant uses all the time, and that is smarmy marketing. Don't be that person. What is smarmy marketing? It's icky, it's gross, it's constant self-promotion, constantly what we saw happen several times through our posts for the Women in Publishing Summit was that people would just come in and start posting their book link, their Amazon sales page book link in the comments of our posts. Well, nobody likes that. I'm sorry to tell you. Yeah, you might get a click or 2 on there, but most people do not like that kind of thing. If you're using an email list, every email should not be, go leave a review of my book or go buy my book. People don't like it when all you post on your Facebook page is, hey, I wrote a book. This is my book. Go buy my book. I used to do direct sales with multi-level marketing, right? And it gets to the point where, you're trained basically to make a connection with every person that you meet, and they might want to buy the product that you're selling. And it gets to the point where sometimes you forget that you're talking to people and you can only see them as a potential buyer. And that's not great. So the way you reframe this, is you don't show up in the wrong places and do that kind of marketing. You want to, you don't try and steal somebody else's platform unless you've been invited. If you've been invited to be a podcast guest or a guest on an interview or something like that, then that's an invitation to bring value to their audience and to talk about how you can continue bringing value. But you blanket marketing does not work. You have to know who you're marketing to. You have to show up in the right places, and you need to provide value. So, and you can provide value regardless of what genre you are writing, and it may just take a little bit of thinking about what that value is. For fiction writers, and in Angela J. Ford's interview in the Summit, we talked about newsletter swaps with other writers and how she writes long epic fantasies, and it takes her a long time to finish a book. So there's a lot of time in between one book to the next, but she still wants to provide value to her readers. So she shares other people who are writing on similar topics, who are other people that are writing a book similar to her books, because she knows her audience will like that. And sometimes people get scared and they think, well, that's competition. Why would I send them somebody else? The thing is, I like to use my example of my favorite genre. I have two favorite genres, actually. I love crime thrillers, and I love historical fiction, of particularly World War II books set in Europe. I will read pretty much anything that looks good in either of those topics. So if I'm following my favorite author, and she sends out a message and says, hey, I don't have any new books out, or, I'm still writing this. First of all, I like to follow her process, so I like to learn what she has going on. But if she says to me, hey, this author just published this book and it's great, I read it, it's similar to my book or whatever, I'm so interested in that because it gives me something to read in the in-between. So that is value. For nonfiction writers, for children's book writers and things like that, it's the lessons behind whatever it is that you're teaching. What else can you provide them? If you're writing a cookbook on healthy eating, can you send out a recipe from time to time to your email list? Can you post a video of you preparing a recipe? Can you post can you share a grocery list of your favorite vegetables that most people never know about, and where to find them and when they're in season? You have to think a little bit on how you bring that value, but there's lots and lots and lots of ways that you can bring value to people. And then, eventually they're either going to buy or they're not going to buy. But if you're providing value, they're a whole lot more likely to be buying your things when you suggest it. We've talked a lot over the past few weeks about this book called Hi, It's Me, I Have ADHD. It's the most recent children's book launch that we've done. And Caitlin has done a phenomenal job of putting out additional resources and tools for caregivers, for parents, and for children with ADHD. So while she's out there talking about her book, she's doing it first in a way that brings value. Here are resources. Here is how your child is feeling. Here's what's going on in their mind. Here's the way you can respond. Here's the way a teacher can identify girls that have ADHD. This is something Caitlin and I just talked about the other day, because a lot of times it's boys that are showing these outward signs that they have ADHD in elementary school, but there are little girls who have ADHD too, and they just may show it a little bit differently. So how do you as a teacher know how to identify that? So it's, you are providing more than just your book. There's far more that you can give to people. If it's entertaining them, I can't go through every example. Obviously, right now we'd be here for another 7 hours, but there are ways to find this value and ways to pull it out so that you can naturally get in front of the right people, talk to them about things that they care about. And then, oh, by the way, if this is something you're interested in, I have this. You don't even have to do it that way. When you're writing an article or a guest blog or something like that, you can put in the byline, Caitlin Mabry is the author of the book, Hi, It's Me, I Have ADHD. And that's usually enough. If somebody reads an article that you wrote and it really speaks to them, and then they see that you wrote a book on the topic, they're very likely going to either go see if they can get it at their library or find the audiobook or buy it on Amazon or go to their local store and buy it. So you don't have to, there's lots and lots of ways to market in a way that makes people love you and not want to like delete you off Facebook. Okay, so the secret to success on all of this is that you must think like a publisher, an entrepreneur, a marketer, a publicist, a reader, a buyer, the book buyer. And that, and you know, you have to remember that just because publishing a book is easy because of self-publishing and the print on demand and the options that we have to load our books to all of these different places, doesn't mean that you can do it without doing it the right way. And it doesn't mean that selling a book is going to be easy. You know your audience. Make sure you know that they know that you care about them as readers, not just as someone who's going to buy your book, and make sure that you have a plan in place. Okay, and then the final mistake is not being prepared for what it takes to be a successful author. If you watched any of the summit, you would see time after time after time that our speakers continue to share their information, but it's a long journey. It's lots of work. It's not just write a book, get it edited, get a cover, load it to Amazon, instant success. There's a lot more to the story, and most authors aren't doing what it takes to get that journey down. Okay, so it's the long game. Be prepared for the long game. Be prepared to keep marketing, to keep working, to keep writing, to publish more books, to publish more content, to continue providing information to them. And it starts with a strategy. So you need to know all of these things. Then you need to put it in a plan, just like you would any other business, and you need to implement your plan. You have to figure out the how, the when, the whys, the budget, how you're going to do it, your goals, your timeline, all of those things. And if you're not willing to do all of that stuff, that's cool. You can publish your book and you can throw it up on Amazon, and maybe something magical will happen, and you know, you'll have the success that you'll be the overnight success that everyone dreams of doing, but that's not the likelihood of the thing. All right, so I've given you a bunch of information to mull over. Some of you are also going through the 5-day author boot camp, so you're hearing this quite frequently right now. But the important thing to keep note of is that there are tools to help you. And this is what my organization, what I do, what my team and I do best. We are very good at helping people walk through this whole process. We have refined our process. We have refined the tools that we use. We have done a lot of this work. And WIP School is the way that we bring this to people. We help you by bringing you in, by helping you create your timeline, by knowing all of the pieces of the puzzle, by identifying all of those things, by teaching you the things that you need to know that maybe you didn't know you needed to know, and by providing all of those tools to you. So the WIP school, by the way, is normally a really big, intense program, and we market it, and this is what I do for the next 6 months of my life. Unfortunately, this year, because of the coronavirus and life just being what it is right now, I decided to scale it back a bit. It's still the same content, the same modules. We're just scaling back a bit of the live, like one-to-one elements and coaching elements that I had hoped to do this year. But you're going to get all of the same content. You're going to get sample templates for your strategy and help in creating these strategies. You're going to get guest experts who come in and help you with this. You're going to get help identifying your timeline and figuring out when in the process you should be doing all of these things. And you're going to get it at a steal of a deal. We lowered the price. I don't even know how much of a price change $2,997 down to $297 is, but it's like a drop of like 1,000%. I'm not a math person. But we are providing it at a much lower price so that people can afford to join this program and go through it, because right now we have a great opportunity in front of us, and that is a little bit extra time and a little bit extra we're going to be on lockdown for a little while here. So being able to take that and utilizing it to your benefit and integrating in your writing and your publishing in a way that maybe you haven't had the time to do up until now because life has been so crazy. For some of you, life is crazier than normal now. So, we do close the doors on April 3rd. You can come in. It's self-paced but guided. So what I mean by that is that we have a focus each month, but you can do the work when you want to do the work, and you can show up for the Q&As when you want to show up for them, when you're able to. Excuse me. But it's still your responsibility to do the work. But if you can't start until 3 months from now, that's okay. But you need to enroll now, because we close the door for enrollment on April 3rd. And there won't be anybody coming in. We concentrate on the people that we have in the program at that point in time, and we move forward together. So I encourage you to check it out if you feel like you need a little extra guidance. If you don't want to spend hours and hours looking up all of this information and doing all the research that we've done and compiled for you. Yes, you can go listen to lots of podcasts. You can do lots of other things. You can do all of that. But it's a time thing. I would love to offer you this stuff already figured out for you and help you along the journey, to save you in the long run, to save you the time, the energy, and quite honestly, will probably save you a lot of money in mistakes or things that you didn't need to do, or programs that you didn't need to also buy, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're interested in that, if you've stuck with me to this point, I really appreciate it, because I can tell by looking at my phone that the video is terrible. I'm going to load this to YouTube immediately, and we will send out the link to the replay. But I appreciate everybody's patience on this. It's been a really difficult time for those of us who normally run online businesses, because now everything is just saturated in a way we've never seen before. And it has, these are not the challenges I thought I would be facing right now. That is certainly the truth of it. But all right, thanks everyone. Have a great, great, great afternoon.